in the country of Marut, whatever, the Foreign Trade Agency's records were reviewed in 1994 in light of information then newly available from neighboring Goro. Okay, so there is a country, Marut, and there the Foreign Trade Agency's records were reviewed in 1994. So we have been given a timeline over here, yeah? So our timeline is that the records were reviewed in the year 1994. I see some other years as well. So it will be easy for me in case I make a timeline. Yeah, I'll be able to see exactly what happened in which year types. Okay. So the records were reviewed. In light of information newly available about neighboring Goro. Okay. The review revealed that in every year since 1963, so in every year since 1963, they're talking about this. It revealed that in every year since 1960, the agency's projection of what Goro's GNP would be 5 years later was a serious underestimate. So they are talking about the time since 1963. They said that the agency said that our estimate of what Goro's GNP will be 5 years down the line was a serious underestimate. What does that mean? It means that in 1963, we estimated what Goro's GNP is going to be in 1968. Yeah. So say, for example, we said that this is going to be here at this time, we said this is going to be 200 billion. Yeah, in 1968, a 5 year window, right? They have given us. So it was a serious underestimation because their actual Goro's actual GNP maybe turned out to be 300 billion or something. Yeah. So they said this continued, for since 1963, which means that then in 1964 they would have, let's say, hypothesized, predicted, whatever, what will be Goro's GNP maybe 1 year down the line, 2 years, and 5 years. They said that what we predicted for the 5 years in 1969. Let's say we said that the GNP of Goro in 1969 is going to be 250 billion, but that was a huge underestimate as well. Maybe it turned out to be 320 billion or something. You understand? This is what is given to me. This is what they mean by the review revealed that in every year since 1963, the agency's projection of what Goro's GNP would be 5 years later was a serious underestimate. So the agency underestimated Goro's GNP of 5 years later. Yeah. Okay, the review also revealed that in every year since 1963, the agency estimated Goro's GNP for the previous year, a Goro state secret, very accurately. So what they're saying is that also in the same range, same period, whenever the agency it tried to figure out what was Goro's GNP in the previous year, which is a state secret of Goro. Goro doesn't really share that information. Then it was very, very accurate, very accurately. So if so we said that in 19, okay, the figure has gotten a little messy. Let's just make a fresh figure. So 1963, they said that Goro would have 200 billion in 1968, for example. Yeah, but in 1968, Goro actually had 300 billion. In 1969, when they predicted what was Goro's, this GNP in 1968, they were pretty accurate. Do you understand this? Yeah. Then they were extremely accurate. When actually they were not predicting, they were estimating that what would have been because it was a state secret. Then they estimated, they said that, yeah, it was 300 billion. Then they were very accurate. Do you understand what happened here? In 1963, this agency said that Goro will have 200 billion in 1968. In 1969, they said that, okay, Goro had 300 billion last year. They were pretty accurate in their estimate of previous year's GNP. Yeah, even though it was a state secret of Goro. Okay, which are the following claims which is most strongly supported by the statements given now? Do realize that this is a question which is asking you for the most strongly supported claim. Yeah, it is not saying which must be established or which must be true. I'm going to be very happy if I find something which must be true, but of the given options, I don't, it needn't necessarily be true. It is most strongly supported. These words are, even though this is also an inference question, previous questions were also an inference question, but do realize that these are different words. Yeah, they in the previous questions they wanted something which must be true. Here, most likely to be true is good enough for us. Yeah, so of course it'll be great if I get something which must be true, but most likely to be true is also okay. Yeah, even though it doesn't really matter in this question, but still. All right, look at option A. Gaurav's GNP fluctuated greatly between 1963 and 1994. Now, what I'm not given is exactly that, I'm not given that their GNP fluctuated a lot, right? I'm just given that, you know, what they predicted, that what the agency of Merit predicted and what they estimated for the previous year, those were very different values. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that their GNP fluctuated greatly. It is, and I don't even know what greatly is, right? And there is no such data given to me. Maybe a range of 50 billion is greatly, or maybe 500 billion is greatly. I don't even know, right? So no data about this given to me. Okay. B. Prior to 1995, Goro had not released data intended to mislead the agency in making its 5 years projection. Can I, based on the data given to me, do I know whether Goro released any data intended to mislead the agency or released any data? I know that their GNP was a state secret, right? Even the next year, they were not discuss, you know, they were not sharing with anybody what their GNP was, right? Previous year, we know it is a state secret, but maybe they distributed some data intended to mislead the agency. We don't know. Maybe they didn't. I have no information about what Goro did. All we know is that their real numbers they did not share with anybody. Yeah. So of course this is also not given to me. See, the amount by which the agency underestimated the GNP it projected for Goro tended to increase over time. So I know that whatever they projected for Goro for 5 years later was an underestimation. Did that underestimation increase as the time went by? Is it given to me that, okay, you know, in 1963 the underestimation was of 100 billion, and then 1964 the underestimation of was 120 billion? There is no such data given to me, right? I don't know whether the underestimation increased or decreased. All I know is that it was, you know, hugely underestimated. That's all I know, right? Okay. So this is also not the answer. D. Even before the new information came to light. So now, which information are you talking about? The information that came in 1994, right? In light of information then newly available. So even before this new information came to light, the agency had reason to think that at least some of the 5 year projections it had made were inaccurate. Now, isn't this correct? Do you understand why it is correct? Because the agency in 1963, they said that Goro would have, their projection was of 200 billion for 1968, right? But they revised their numbers in 1969. They revised their number for 1968 and they said that no, actually Goro had a GNP of 300 billion, because we know this was inaccurate and this was a huge underestimation. So the agency definitely had reason to believe that some of its 5 year projections were inaccurate, isn't it? They knew it. In 1963, they made a certain projection. In 1969, they revised their estimate. They said, no, it wasn't 200, it was 300. So they had reason to believe. They had some new information. They had some reason to believe that their projections were not accurate, isn't it? It is the same agency which is revising its number in 1969, right? For 1968. Does that make sense? And that is why this option is in fact, it is true, right? It is correct. Okay, the agency's 5 year projections of Goro's GNP had no impact on economic planning in Merit. This we don't know. Yeah, we have no idea about what they did with those numbers. So, of course, incorrect. So, our answer is D. Does that make sense? Is it correct?